this is like a marriage. Like this is not just, well, I'm just going to, date you for a couple of years. No. You're really in a relationship.
And the agency wants to get results.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like we're driven by creating beautiful things, by getting results for the client, by being in a relationship where you are a trusted partner. That's so important to get the most out of your agency is, just the way that the team gets treated. Hey everyone, welcome back to MasterMined. I'm your host, Mark Scrivner, and I'm joined today to finish out our two-part series by my fabulous co-host, Lee Pepper.
Two-part series, Mark. That's how good this stuff is.
Yeah, this has been a fun one. I'm glad we could break this into 2 episodes because it's so important for programs to consider. 1, the RFP process, and then 2, now that we've selected the agency partner, how to set the agency and the program up for success.
And this is where you're either going to succeed or fail.
Yeah. What? Well, I mean, that's a great way to lead into this episode, Lee. So excited, and I know now you're going to probably be asking me more questions than I asked you on the last episode. So we'll.
Well, yeah, Mark. I find that first 30 to 60 days really sets the tone, and I wonder from your perspective, when you've done work, especially with some of my clients. And you know how demanding I am about come on site. What's it like for you in that first 30 days? Because you have a lot of housekeeping that you have to go through to even be able to impact them in a positive way. Like you just don't all of a sudden websites transferred or domains have been selected. I mean, there's some housekeeping.
Yeah, I think as long as the program has the right mentality of this is going to take a little bit of time and you're not going to see results immediately. Now you can see some great results happening pretty quickly, but I think getting on site, unpacking the organization, the program, and learning all about what are their goals. Is it they want to build this over the next 3 years to ultimately sell it, and that's going to require a different type of marketing? Then we're going to build this thing to become a legacy, and maybe we're going to expand into other markets and buy up other programs. That's another way that we need to start thinking about the way we're going to market. But I think getting on site, and I think, that taking the team through some sort of strategy session, it doesn't have to be a full day, but, learning each other, building those relationships, that trust is super important in the first 30 days. Also, just getting access to every tool that they've been using, every piece of data that they wanted reported on is going to be another very important aspect of that first 30 to 60 days. And through that, the agency should be delivering something. So it's not that, hey, we're going to take 60 days and we're going to go off and we'll be behind the curtain working on all this stuff. And then after 60 days, we're going to come out. There should be a weekly or bi-weekly cadence of meetings that we're going to have with the programs.
I always find that most companies do a decent job of onboarding their own staff. And, you'll have a process where maybe you're assigned, an employee to kind of guide you through, and you'll have different HR meetings and stuff you have to go through. But we generally do a terrible job onboarding the agency. So I challenge everybody that's bringing in new partners. You need to treat the agency like you would an employee. Take them through an onboarding process. And I think one of the things that, Mark, you've heard me say this, and Miranda and your team have heard me preach this, the agency needs to get a quick win. And so, believe me, nobody wants a quick win more than the agency does. Believe me. So the company that's hired you, they've got to be able to give you a little runway so you can get some quick wins. So I think that things like taking over social, that can provide some early quick wins, setting up the reporting, because now I think you start building on this energy of some success versus what happens a lot of times. Well, we hired the agency, but I haven't heard from them. I don't know what's going on. And that's what you were alluding to, behind the black curtain. There's some things you have to do behind the curtain. It's administrative, it's transferring stuff, but there are some quick wins that everybody wants to get.
Yeah. And it's usually like in our world, what I've seen is it's usually setting up that dashboard, getting all the data feeds piped in, and they see it and they go, wow, this is unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Or if I have, maybe not at this level. That's a quick win that I've seen. Or it could be designing elements, like the design, as the digital team's getting everything set up and we're getting campaigns ready to go. It's those design features that they're going to see either in brochures, campaign work that we're going to do, just based on, bringing on a new client and designing out something maybe that is fresh that they've not seen. Those are a couple areas where, I see a great quick wins. The other is the communication, and that building that trust is just that whatever, if it's 2 weeks, if it's every week, if it's once a month, whatever it is, the agency coming prepared to those meetings with, here's the agenda, it's clear, here's the deliverables that we talked about the last time, here's where we're at on all of them, here's next steps, here's what we need from you, to make sure that we're all still successful with this.
And I think that that's one of these things, Mark, where, I've seen where the company has to be, they have to have dedicated resources to work with the agency. So it's super important that if you're going to set up a cadence, say of bi-monthly calls, that you're on the bi-monthly calls, that you come prepared. You can't just be the agency is the only one coming prepared. Like it really takes both sides. So I think there has to be this commitment that from the company that they're going to show up on time and be prepared too. Because I can tell you that when things aren't going well, they're going to be the first ones to call and want to get somebody on the phone. But they've got to be doing that hard work, that prep work, as well. So there's a lot of just hiring the agency doesn't solve your problem.
Yeah.
Like it starts you on a good footing, but you have to build that trust and that relationship. I wanted to ask you, do you all? I feel like in the past, do you all do surveys of your customers? Yeah, I feel like I
we
think
do them before the strategy session typically, so we know kind of what all have they been doing. What are they looking for out of this agency partnership? Like, just some key questions that now we typically will go in and we create what we call a client intelligence brief, which is everything about the organization, everything about the program, everything about how they've branded, they messaged in the past, so that we kind of know the tone, the look and feel, the everything going into that session. But beyond that, there's going to be things that we're never going to know.
Right. No, I remember that. I think that's super important because if you can have a partner that is not afraid to ask for feedback, I think that's super helpful. And you think about it. From my perspective, at Foundations, we always had, we had a team that studied, the outcomes of our patients, so we weren't afraid to ask, and it's not always positive. You had kudos to you guys for being open and wanting to survey your customers to see how you're doing.
Yeah. Well, we definitely do that too. Every month or every quarter, we'll do a Net Promoter Score survey where we send it out. And listen, I mean, we get, sometimes we get limited responses, sometimes we get, 4 or 5, but it is usually that one person that you may not have ever known was not happy that you're able to get ahead of something that may have just been a little issue that they didn't communicate it to us, but they felt comfortable to fill out a Net Promoter Score survey.
Yeah. And
then we can jump all over it and get the relationship back on track.
One of the things, Mark, that and maybe it's because I'm here in Nashville and I'm not, I'm 40 minutes, from where you guys are, but I love some of the things that you guys offer the community here through your headquarters with Creative Assembly and some of the other events you do, because I've always been, as soon as I hear about those, I'm always like sending it to my friends, in the community where they can send their marketers to learn from you all. So I feel like a great agency relationship is where you have one where they are teachers. They're doing the work you've hired them to do, but they're also about teaching. And I think that that's an important relationship that not all companies take advantage of, because that's just an ad.
Well, Lee, I mean, it's equally as important in the agency relationship the agency is teaching the team at, whatever treatment center it is that, hey, we're educating you, not just we're spitting out marketing terms and jargon,
right,
but we're telling you, hey, here's what these numbers actually mean, and here's how we're tweaking the dial on those numbers. Here's what we're seeing even in even in calls coming in, and we're driving leads and opportunities are coming in and calls are coming in, but maybe the answer rate is much higher, or the unanswer rate is much higher this month than it was over the last couple months, and we have to ask, is there something going on in admissions? Is there a reason why these calls are going unanswered? At a 18%, where when we started it was 16%. Are we driving the wrong leads in? Are we driving the wrong calls into the center? Or, what is it?
Well, this is an important component, Mark, to the value of working with the right agency partner, is that marketing is not static. So as soon as AI and the zero clicks that are coming in, as soon as that started that was something that we all had to learn. The agency has to learn it. The company hiring you has to learn it. It's not like we knew, we had a crystal ball from 10 years ago. So you've got to have the right team that is staying up to date with the current trends and technology and not falling behind. And sometimes when you're a smaller company, you need to have some type of relationship, I think, with the right agency, so that you're staying abreast of all these things that are coming down the pipe. Because your team, you guys are all, you're an agency partner with many of the search engines and Google. You're getting all the latest training that sometimes my clients aren't necessarily going to be able to take advantage of. So that teacher mentality is super important.
Yeah.
And if you have an internal person or persons, that's going to help you be more efficient too.
Well, and I think also, Lee, the clients are expecting us to get on the calls with them and to bring what are the latest, greatest trends. We talked a little bit earlier in the last episode about the RFP process and how important it was to find an agency partner that was they just did behavioral health or they just did industrial. And I think something that separates us is we get to learn from different industries. We have a couple industries that we service, this being one, but we get to learn from all the others. And I think our clients expect our team to come onto the calls with, hey, here's what we're seeing over here in financial services or in the Caterpillar heavy machinery equipment world. And how do we take that and how do we bring it over to behavioral health to create better results for them? Or it could be, what are the AI tools and how are you using them? What are they that you're using and how is it improving workflows or time management or any of those things that people are seeing AI getting efficiencies around?
Mark, not to put a plug in, but my customers now that are having calls, with Miranda and Trenton, and what's the AI tool that you guys record all of the calls? That helps us now, from my perspective as being on the client side. Now all of a sudden, I've got a much better summary of not only the action items that were talked about and what's the responsibility of the center versus the responsibility of the agency, but also the opportunities. That's one thing that you showed me that, wow, we talked about this, but then is there anybody following up on it in a month or 6 months? I love that. And that was just an added benefit.
Well, it's called Ask Elephant, and they're not a sponsor of the show, but let's give them a shout out. They should be. But I've gotten a couple of of our clients have asked us about the call recording.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful tool in that it's got a bunch of workflows or agents that you can build on the back end where we even get alerts of if a client is not happy and they may have expressed concern on the call, then it gets escalated pretty quickly. And or the opportunities where, we know the accounts team, they have a lot going on. So is there a way that somebody else could lean in and help them to get whatever, new service line or whatever the client's asking for across the finish line for the client.
Yeah, it's helpful to me because, some of my clients, they'll say, what was that we talked about? And it's like, okay, I can quickly go back and go, okay, it's right here. So it's nice.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting too, because I do want to put a plug in for this presentation that I'm going to be leading with Abigail at West Coast Symposium. We're doing an AI for marketing workshop. So it's not just Abigail and I up lecturing. We're actually going to do a workshop, and that is something that I was so pleased that you were able to lend Abigail to come out and present with me. And we're also going to be taking that to Lee Fitzgerald's London conference in November.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that is one of these situations where when you can find the right partner that wants to teach, and you guys are proving it because you're letting Abigail go out and share all of the great knowledge and actually have actionable things. I think that's super helpful to the industry as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, we work with marketing teams. Sometimes in some of our relationships, we work directly with the CEO. So, no matter who you're working with, it is just so important to always be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you have to surround yourself with a team that I'm just very blessed in that the team wants to learn.
Yeah.
So they are staying up on latest, greatest for all the different trends in their area of expertise. And they're bringing me ideas all the time of AI tools or workflows or just things, new design themes they're seeing out there. So it's exciting to have a team that wants to learn.
And one thing I wanted to talk about, just to be mindful of our time too, not when you sign up with an agency, not just with Snapshot, but anybody, most of the time things go very well. But there are times when things don't go well. And I think that's super important that you've gone through an RFP process so that you can go back and you can have honest conversations. I wonder if you might speak on that. The worst thing you want to have happen is something go wrong, but even worse if you're not able to correct it.
Yeah.
And that's where I find that when somebody calls me and they've got a problem, I always, before we get into the RFP process, I always ask, well, have you tried to correct the problem? It's a lot easier to correct the problem sometimes than to go through this whole process. But talk a little bit about how not everything is perfect, and sometimes you do have to kind of correct.
Yeah. I mean, it could be on the client. It could be on the agency. I think where it always breaks down is communication, though. I think, everybody goes into it with great intentions of, we're going to be able to make every monthly or every weekly meeting. We need this cadence, but then maybe a client doesn't show up to the call.
Yeah.
Maybe the wrong person shows up to the call.
Maybe somebody leaves or is on extended vacation
And then the decision maker wasn't on the call, and we needed to really get some answers from the decision maker there. Those things happen, but it typically breaks down because of communication. Could also be that, I just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And that's actually the worst thing you could do for an agency is have that outlook. We need feedback because we are learning, we're learning the client, we're learning the program, we're learning what's worked, what's not worked in the past. We're bringing new ideas. We treat it like we are a partner, not a vendor. And if there is a lack of communication through that process, and I would say that on the flip side, the agency, anytime it's ever broken down on our end is when there's been a lack of communication on timelines. What I've seen is the client typically, let's just say it's a website and it's supposed to launch on this date, and the client has no expectation. There's no event around we've got to launch the website, but they've got this in their head, and the agency partner does not communicate that, hey, it's going to be 2 weeks late because of these 2 or 3 things. But we wanted to make sure they're perfect before it launches. We just don't say anything. And then we get on the call, and it's like, we need to tell you it's going to be late, and it's supposed to launch tomorrow. And nobody wants to be blindsided by that, because maybe they've already told their board, maybe they've already, told the team, and we're super excited internally. They planned a party because we're going to do this, event or this, website launch or whatever, and we don't deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's one of the key takeaways is that when you do hire the right agency, that they are the partner. And in partnerships, not everything is going 100%. And it's okay to have a hard conversation. It's business. It's not personal.
Yeah.
And I know that from the team that I've worked with you all, that it's not a problem when I have to call Miranda. If I've got an issue or one of my clients has an issue, I'm representing them. It's okay. I know that I've gone through an RFP process. I've developed the trust and the relationships, and that's the team is going to help us figure it out. Versus being in this situation where you've hired an agency, you really don't know them, and you're just yelling at them to fix something, and maybe you're not even understanding what it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's super critical to invest the time and understand that when you do select this partner agency, that this is like a marriage. Like this is not just, well, I'm just going to date you for a couple of years. No. You're really in a relationship.
Yeah, and the agency wants to get results.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like we're driven by creating beautiful things, by getting results for the client, by being in a relationship where you are a trusted partner. That's so important to get the most out of your agency. Is just the way that the team gets treated.
And this is another little segue into how the company is looking at the next 3 to 5 years. But when I was at Foundations and also at the Meadows, and also at Specialty Care to some degree, when we were going through different processes of bringing on different investors and exiting, they wanted to know, they had to vet who we were working with. And you got to believe that, we wanted to make sure we worked with really high quality people, because you don't want to just give them, well, I'm working with this guy down the street who's out of his garage. Like, okay, that's not going to give either the enterprise that's acquiring you, or if it's private equity, that's not going to give them a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So you want to choose your partners, very well.
Yeah, and your partner should set up whoever it is that's having to do that reporting the right way.
Yeah.
Like there's so many decks that we create for CEOs that have to go present our data into their board that is all branded around them, the program, and so it just makes the CEO or the executive leader that's presenting this data look really, really good.
Yeah.
And then we educate them on the front end, so that's really important going into those kind of meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, Lee, I hope this has been helpful. I know we've got maybe just a parting shot.
Okay.
For, if a CEO is going to start the agency search tomorrow, what's the first thing they've got to do?
I think that they've got to actually start documenting their RFP. Now, I think part of that is you want to make sure you're understanding who you're going to invite into the RFP process, and I think that should be vetted. I think who you invite in, you need to be very careful about who you're inviting in, because you're going to kind of overwhelm your team. But I think you have to demand that your team create the RFP, and then I think you need to see a list of potential agencies you would invite in, and that needs to be culled. You don't want to do 10. You want to, I always say do 2 to 3, but you need to cull whatever list you get.
Yeah. Well,
and then I wanted to ask you, okay, 3 to 5 years, are we going to need agencies, or can I just do ChatGPT from here on out?
I think that's a great question. I know probably every company, not even in this space, everybody's thinking the same thing. And I think in 3 to 5 years, there will be tools that will make teams so efficient. And maybe you don't see the team grow to 150, 200 person agencies, because you've got 50 people that are like super powered by all these different tools and workflows and agents that you can build and all of that. And it's going to make the work better. It's going to make it's going to make everything better. And it's what we talk about for programs is that, why not create these, why not make the workflows more efficient so you can spend more time with the things that matter the most, of giving the highest quality of care, and I think in our world, it's the same thing. Why not create all these efficiencies where our team can provide the highest level of strategy and education to our clients and to the world?
I think you're spot on, Mark, and I think that people need to hear me say this, that AI, you've got, to me, two heads. You've got the tools, but now you have the supercomputing power that can now slice and dice so many more assets. So I'm not worried about young people who are thinking AI is going to steal their jobs, especially in a marketing role, because now if you want to be competitive in this market, you can't just rely on your on-page optimization with your website. Like, that's going to be part of it, the content you put on your website. But if you're not involved in doing YouTube Shorts, if you're not doing a podcast, if you're not doing TikTok, if you're not doing Instagram Reels, all that is being indexed. And if you're not doing it, you're missing out. So when AI is returning these search results, they're not going to include you. So your team, you probably don't have a team that can do all of these platforms. And that's just the ones we know today. There's more and more platforms being developed all the time. And that's where the AI tools are going to be able to help your marketing staff be able to cover all of those. And that's where you also need to have, I think, a partner that is really understanding everything that's coming at you.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it at the end of the day, I would say it all comes down to the relationship, though. People want to work with people.
Yeah.
They just want those people to have the very best, you know, skills and the very best tools at their, you know, at their disposal to get me the best results they possibly can.
Yeah.
But I want to work with you because I trust you. I like you.
Yeah.
You know my program as well as I do.
Yeah.
I think those are the most important things.
Yeah.
That AI is probably never going to replace.
Yep, I agree.
You know,
excellent.
So great show. I mean, that's a wrap for today's episode. On behalf of myself, Lee, and the entire MasterMined crew, thank you for tuning in today. If this conversation or the last conversation in this two-part series has sparked any questions, please reach out and leave us your questions in the comments section, and Lee and I will get back with you right away on it. If it's how to structure an RFP, I know Lee has got a lot of the best practices, and he'd be an ideal person to reach out to. But, you know, we're really appreciative that you show up week in and week out to listen to us. If you would, just subscribe, rate, review. And if this episode made an impact on you, if you'd just share it with your executive team or other leaders out there, we would really appreciate you helping us get the word out. So until next time, this is MasterMined signing off.
That wraps up this episode of MasterMined. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, MasterMined is not just a podcast, it's a community. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and review us. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content that's relevant and relatable. Thanks again to our sponsor, Snapshot, a digital media marketing agency. And thank you for joining us on MasterMined, your behavioral health playbook.